Hi guys, thanks for joining me today on Robin Hood Diaries. Bit of an unusual show this evening. Well, I guess they're all sort of unusual, right? But this one, I guess for me, is unusual to speak about. Pursuant to the promos that I put out for this particular show, they said to the effect of, why is this woman the only one who cuddled me until ninth grade? And the other one inferred something to the effect of, why was yanking me out of an all black school and pushing me into a different kind of environment traumatic? Okay, well, it's all true, not over exaggerating or exaggerating. So let's start with the woman. Okay, her name was Sandy. Here's a picture. I have many of her, but this isn't that great. But this is Sandy and I. This is 1969, I think. Anyway, Sandy in the 60s is what they used to refer to as a nurse. A nurse is a nanny. It's like a fancy way for the smart set to refer to their nannies back then, at least, as nurses. They were not nurses, but they did care for newborns. Point being, Sandy was there basically when my mom got home from the hospital. She was newborn executive. She took over. The minute I hit the house, she was mine. I was hers. My mom was a very busy woman. My mom was not cut out to be a mother. My mom was not very affectionate or nurturing. She was intelligent and she had lots to share. Motherhood is one that she should not have been sharing. Point being, again, she was a busy woman. She was that kind of a person. And she was basically heading up Saks Fifth Avenue, as I've mentioned before, between 1960 and 1970. So my mother essentially dictated fashion in Beverly Hills throughout the 1960s. She was fashion coordinator. Everything in the window was her responsibility. The staff was her responsibility. My mother was actually responsible for hiring the first black sales person in Beverly Hills on the floor. Before that, they only worked the elevators, believe it or not. Pretty disgusting. So my mom pushed, said no, and she put a black lady as a sales girl on her floor, and then the other department stores started to follow suit. Anyway, I digress. Sandy was hired. Sandy was my mom. Basically from infancy, newborn, through, I think, 3, 4, maybe something like that. 3, maybe. Anyway, Sandy was the only person that held me. I had photo ops with my parents. My dad was an extremely affectionate person. But these pictures that you see when they involve my mom, and they're not like real pictures like this, just kind of playing and being normal, and being cuddled and held and attention focused on me. Not much to ask for a 3-year-old or a newborn, right? But I would get photo ops. There were lots of ops of my mom completely decked out in fashion to the minute as she represented the West Coast Saks Fifth Avenue. And they were cute pictures, very fashionable little pictures of me at the country club and so forth. Whatever, okay, guys? So, what I was used to from newborn until 3-ish or whatever is Sandy. Sandy's smell, Sandy's touch, Sandy's breath, the smell of Sandy's hair, the way Sandy rocked me. You rock babies in rhythm with your heartbeat, actually, believe it or not. You learn that sort of as a parent, or as a parent of a fur baby, the way you sort of jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. There's a thing. So this is the rhythm that I fell into with Sandy as a person, as a new human being in this world. Okay? I took her lead. She fed me. She picked me up when I was upset, crying. She put me to bed. She lulled me to sleep. Everything. 0 to 3 or 4, whatever, it doesn't matter. So I'm not looking for a hall pass. I'm not ethnically, or in terms of ethnicity, I'm not looking for honorary membership. And I'm not looking, if any of this comes across as politically incorrect to you, with regard my terminology and my use of words like black person as opposed to African American, can't help you, okay? That's how I was raised. That's how I will remain. Again, I'm not looking for no hall pass. I am the proud father of a strong, black, young man, and I helped him get there, knowing that the struggle is real. Okay, so I got some shit in the game here. So, in I suppose line with my mother and her progressive thinking, fortunately she got it right once. And early on, I was in, I don't know, public school until like first grade, another fancy all white school in Beverly Hills, El Rodeo, the only public school in Beverly Hills, whatever. And of course, I grew up across from Beverly Hills High School. Again, bingo. So my mother thought, to my mom, whatever was best for everyone else in the smart set was good enough for her. If they said it was the best doctor, it was the best doctor, even though he was 80 years old with his tongue hanging out of his mouth. If he was the best, he was the best. They weren't. So, this case, she got it right. She sent me to a supposedly progressive environment educationally. It was an all-black school bordering on South Central Los Angeles. Not quite there, but sort of at the freeway, which the 10 freeway sort of divides North Town, South Town kind of thing, okay? So it was down there right by the 10 freeway. Very lower socioeconomic area, very progressive school called the International Children's Center, I think it was called. Anyway, all black, okay? I was the only white child in a large private black school. It was not some tiny little school. I never had a problem, kids. I guess that's kind of part of what the message of the show is about, and I don't really know where that message goes or lands, but I was there up and through fourth grade. Never had a problem, never felt different, was never called the F word, the 3-letter F word. Was never looked funny, was never called out on how I dressed, how I talked, my long hair, nothing. We were too busy at recess harmonizing Rock the Boat, Don't Rock the Hughes Corporation and other bands 150,000 years ago. We were too busy going to have swimming lessons together. We were too busy going to the park together. We were too busy, as I said, R&Bing out in the park. I can go on and on about what a positive experience that was for me. What can I say? So then I got yanked out of that school, I guess, because it was no longer progressive, or there was another better progressive school, which there was, and I got put into that school. That school, it was cool. Very, 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 very good school. Helped me get into a very good high school called Center for Early Education. Yes, it was diverse, I guess, in the sense that, I don't know, Diana Ross's kids went there. Hi, Tracy. Doesn't necessarily make it ethnically diverse, but whatever. So I was put in that environment, basically white, wealthy environment of children in a completely upscale area of bordering on Beverly Hills. So then I get put into a private public school, which is predominantly white and extremely wealthy, even though at the time it was sort of a kind of a little bit of a bohemian, kind of quasi hippy dippy kind of school. It was still expensive and still had the best teachers, and it was still basically white and rich. Again, so first day in 7th grade, guess what? A guy named Jonas gets in my face and calls me an FAG and starts grilling me on why I was wearing the clothes I was wearing that day. That they were, FAGE and this, that, and the other. I had never been called that. I scarcely knew what that meant. And voila. Okay, voila. Here I am, right? And guess what? I am homesick as hell for 4th grade again. And all those years, 4th grade and Sandy and before getting yanked out of 4th grade and that environment. Again, I ain't looking for no hall pass, and I am not appropriating anything or anything. It's how I was raised, and it's what I miss. And take it or leave it. I don't know where even you are going to put that. I'm not agitated. I'm sorry, you guys. But it just, like I said, I don't know where that leaves me in the world, Do I gravitate to black people in a different kind of a way? Yes. Yes, because I was weaned on them, okay? Or her and her environment and her kid and her family, which I would go see anyway. So I longed for that. I longed for that. And I will leave you with this, because we are over 10, of course, again. Ever since fourth grade, ever since as far back as I can remember, I wanted to be a parent. I did. Boy or girl, and I had this weird sense that it wasn't going to be with a wife. I don't know why, but I definitely knew I wanted a kid. Through fourth grade, I wanted a kid. And guess what? When I got yanked out of fourth grade and put into that environment, and I would juxtapose my experiences and lived through one and lived up through until another, guess what, kids? I decided I wanted a black child. Okay? Sound weird? I guess so. But that was my logic. That was my reason. That was the only reason in my brain at that time, to want a child, is to be like these children. They were so good to me, like this woman that virtually raised me, like all of those other things. And I decided, mixing that in with wanting to have a child from as far back as I can remember, to about 8 or whenever the yank was, and thereafter, I thought, you know what? When I have my child, it is going to be at least disenfranchised ethnically, predominantly, preferably, hopefully, a young black child. Birth, newborn, late adoption, wife, I didn't care. But that was my hellbent. So I don't know if that makes me a bad person, a good person. It makes me controversial. You know what it makes me? It makes me me. That's all it makes me, is me. And that's me. And that is some of the trauma, being yanked out of one environment and put into another. And that is also in the promo why I have an affinity for somebody that was the only female to cuddle me in the traditional sense until 9th grade. Until I got a girlfriend in 9th grade who was phenomenal person, and was tender with me and affectionate with me. And that was the first time since Sandy. I wasn't just a photo op to her. I was a human being that needed to be cared for, protected, loved, and nurtured. And I got it. So at least I got it, and I'm better for it. Thank you, Sandy. I don't know. I guess that's the show, right? I covered my bases, and I don't know. I got a bucket list interview coming up in next week, later in the week. I don't know, but it's a bucket list interview. I can't wait. It's booked, and a couple other in the fire, and a couple other shows. Of course, always in my hip pocket. There's always a show. Have you noticed? I think we're up to close to 450 videos, and it's a new topic every day. So at least if you binge me, you can look at the title and see if you feel like that 10, 15, 29 minutes, whatever. You don't have to rifle through 450 videos or sit through a half an hour video going, I didn't really want to watch this one. I give teasers on every video. So you only have to spare about 45 seconds to see if you're interested. Blah, 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 blah. Thanks, guys. You know I love you, and I live for this. Kind of, sort of, really. So take care. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.